Welcome to the Know and Go series. Today, we're going to talk about one of the planet's most incredible animals, a true giant with an impact that's, well, even bigger than it is. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, so first things first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer size we're dealing with here. A fully grown male elephant, we're talking up to 6,000 kilograms. That makes it the largest land animal on Earth, and it's not even close. And get this, they start out huge. A baby elephant is born weighing around 120 kilograms. And what's even crazier, within just an hour, they're already up on their feet and walking, ready to roll with the herd. Incredible, right? And you can't talk about elephants without talking about that trunk. I mean, it's not just a nose, right? It's his biological masterpiece. It has something like 150,000 different muscle units inside it. Think about that. That's how it can be strong enough to toss a log, but also gentle enough to pluck a single berry off a bush.
But look, these big numbers are amazing, but they really only scratch the surface. Elephants are so much more than that. They're super smart, really social, and they live in these tight-knit family groups. And leading the way is always the oldest, wisest female. They call her the matriarch. She's the one who knows where to find all the food and water. So you take their massive size, their intelligence, and how they live together, and it all adds up to their most important job in nature. See, scientists have a special name for animals like this. They call them a keystone species. Now, I know that sounds a little technical, but trust me, the idea behind it is actually pretty simple and super cool.
So what is a keystone species? Well, think of it like this. It's the superstar of the whole ecosystem. It's that one animal or even a plant that tons of other species rely on just to get by. And if you were to remove it, the whole system could just change completely or even fall apart. Probably the best way to picture it is with a stone arch. You know the kind? You've got all these stones, but there's that one single stone right at the top center. That's the keystone. If you pull that one stone out, what happens? The whole arch collapses. That's exactly the role an elephant plays in its environment. Okay, so how do they do it? How does one animal hold an entire world together? Well, it turns out they have a few really important jobs, you could say. And the first one is being nature's engineers. And I mean that literally. They actually shape the world around them. Let's take a look at their first job title, the water finders. Okay, so picture this. It's the dry season on the savannah. The sun is just baking the earth, and there's no water anywhere. For most animals, this is a total crisis. But for the elephants, it's just a problem that needs solving. So what do? They use those powerful tusks, which are really just giant teeth, and they start digging into these dry riverbeds. And they dig and dig until they find water hidden underground. But here's the amazing part. It's not just for them. These holes they dig fill up with water, creating a life-saving watering hole for dozens of other animals. All right, next up on their resume, path makers. You know, if you're in a really dense forest, it can be tough for smaller animals to get around. But that's where the elephants come in. They're like the original pioneers, clearing a path for everybody else. And they do this just by, well, being elephants. As they move through the forest, eating and just walking around, they create these gaps in all the thick plants and trees. And those gaps, they become trails and pathways that all the smaller animals use to get around safely and find their own food. So they're engineers, but they're also what you might call super gardeners. They're basically planting entire forests. And the craziest part is they do it without even trying. Here's how it works. Elephants eat a ton of food. We're talking up to 150 kilos every single day. And a lot of that is fruit and plants full of seeds. Then they travel for miles and miles, and, well, when nature calls, they deposit all those undigested seeds in their dung, which, it turns out, is the perfect fertilizer. So they're literally planting new trees and bushes in a brand new spot, complete with their own fertilizer. It's genius. But their gardening duties change a bit when they're out on the savannah. In the grasslands, they're not so much planting things as they are, well, keeping things tidy. Think of them as the savannah's giant lawnmowers. See, they eat all the little tree sprouts and small shrubs. And by doing that, they actually stop the forest from growing out and taking over the grasslands. This keeps the plains nice and open, which allows all that grass to grow. And why does that matter? Because that grass is the food for so many other animals, like zebras and wildebeest. So you can see it, right? From finding water to making paths to planting forests, Elephants are just absolutely crucial. They're a helper for an entire world. But the reality is, these incredible animals are in serious trouble. If you went back a century ago, thriving herds of elephants roamed all across Africa. They had plenty of space. But today, their world is shrinking fast. As our towns and farms get bigger, the elephant's habitat gets smaller. And that means more conflict between humans and elephants over the same land. But maybe the biggest, most devastating threat of all has been the ivory trade. Poaching for their tusks caused the African elephant population to drop by around 90%. 90% in just the last 100 years. That number is it's hard to even comprehend. So that leaves us with a really important question. If elephants are the architects and the gardeners, the very keystone of their world, what happens when they disappear? What happens to that arch when you pull out the keystone? Protecting them isn't just about saving one amazing animal. It's about protecting the entire world that they hold together. Thank you for listening to this No One Go episode.